I'm a really lucky guy, so it's really a good moment for me. I'm really looking forward to the first training with the players, to the first match, and yeah, I'm prepared. I'm absolutely relaxed. I had 4 months holiday. Everything is perfect, and I would say I'm in best shape. I don't want to describe myself. The only thing I can say, maybe I ask her, does anybody in this room think that I can do wonder? No? So let me work. I'm a totally normal guy. I came from Black Forest. My mother maybe sit in front of the television and watch this press conference, understand no word until now. So, but is very proud. She's very proud. So I'm a totally normal guy. I'm the normal one, maybe, if you want this.
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of wiKOPedia. We'll be talking about the current Liverpool manager, JURGEN Klopp. So, Steve, we'll just get the ball rolling really quick. Brendan Rodgers, after a few bad results, left the club. Was Jurgen Klopp your first choice, or did you have somebody else you would have liked to have seen around at Liverpool?
My preference absolutely was Jurgen Klopp, primarily because both Mainz and Dortmund are very similar to Liverpool in the way that the fans approve and support their clubs, and it seemed to me to be a perfect fit. There was a period when it looked like Carlo Ancelotti might actually be the front runner, and that worried me because until the Everton job, I always thought Carlo Ancelotti was a man who presided over a well-oiled machine, who couldn't go and take over a Real Madrid team and win trophies. I could do that. You could do that. So I was concerned Ancelotti might get it. I always wanted Klopp. The sabbatical thing that he talked about having was a concern. But thank God he was enticed into sitting down having a conversation with the powers that be, and they made an offer to him he couldn't refuse. Thank God. So always the one for me. I was sceptical we'd get him for a variety of reasons, but the fit was just ideal, mate.
Same question to you, Jamie. Who did you want? Was it the normal one, or did you have somebody else in mind?
Yeah, I mean, Klopp was always a dream for me. I can remember watching him at Dortmund. I wasn't overly familiar with him at Mainz and Fünf, I believe they say. I wasn't overly familiar with his work there, but I was acutely aware of him when he was at Dortmund. You just had to look at what he was doing in terms of the players that he was recruiting. They weren't typically household names, but he was turning them into absolute stars for a Dortmund team. He's very system driven, and he's very clever at recruiting to fit that system in terms of qualities, and also in terms of player mentality as well. So yeah, it was very clear what he could do. It felt like he would have been the right fit, but again, very much like Steve, I kind of anticipated Ancelotti. I think they had talks with Ancelotti, and he came a little unstuck on the premise that he identified a need for an entire new spine to the team for him to achieve any success with Liverpool. Ultimately, he's kind of been proven right. We have needed that. That's been needed for a good few years, to be fair. But yeah, stylistically, it was always Klopp. He was always very exciting. You can picture him at Anfield having a Klopp team playing in front of the Kop. It would have been incredible, absolutely incredible. Unfortunately for us all, it came to fruition, sort of out of left field, because obviously he was on a sabbatical, and I believe he was on holiday when the interest was sort of presented to him. But yeah, the pull was a big one. I think he recognised the sort of magnetism, the neutral and natural sort of fit between both club and the manager, and yeah. Yeah, it was just a great thing, and it was the right thing, and that's only been proven further with every year that passes with him in charge.
Just sticking with you, Jamie, what was your reaction when it became official and Klopp was announced?
I was elated. I was absolutely elated. It was I couldn't stop watching I couldn't stop watching the man. I watched his press conference numerous times. Every movement that he made in his initial weeks, I was casting my eye over. I was absolutely mesmerized. It was almost borderline hero worship, and I'm not much for that personally, but it was trying to sort of get it to sink into my head. Liverpool have been going through a relatively negative time in terms of what had been going on the pitch and all those bits and bobs. In terms of, we weren't really going anywhere. We were stagnating, and it was going to take something very drastic and a real shot in the arm for the supporters to get them excited, but not just excited because we know he was a big name, a very likable character. But there was a genuine belief that this man's the real deal. He's a real coach. He went on. He started generating performances from players he had no right to, really. But yeah, my reaction, I was absolutely over the moon, and that only grew with every word that man uttered over his presser.
Same question to you, Steve. What was your reaction when the normal one was announced to be the new Liverpool manager?
Very similar to Jamie, mate. Absolutely elated, overjoyed. The man's just got a presence about him. When you saw him on the pitch in his black suit with his black shirt, looking pretty suave, just got a presence about him. Then in his press conference, he just settled down everybody's nerves. He's got away with people. He's got away with words. Certainly got away with the media. Really good in the sense that he's his own man, and he's a very revered and respected own man by players and people in the game alike. He turned Man United down, which is great because he came to us. But more importantly than anything else, Brendan Rodgers is always with Brendan Rodgers. I feel he feels he's got something to prove, and he needs to be the main man. And I think that's the reasons why Carragher and Gerrard's careers ended like they did. I lost a lot of respect for him. So to replace Brendan Rodgers with Jurgen Klopp, you're kind of going from a certain level to stratospheric level. Klopp was everything our football club needed. He's a man of the people, and being a man of the people, that is an association with our football club that he's a tailor-made fit. I wouldn't swap him for anybody. He is the best manager hire in the club's history for me, and I'll say that, and I'll sort of evidence that by saying, in winning the title after 30 years, for me, is the greatest achievement of any Liverpool football manager. And the reason for that is because football has evolved and changed in such a way. People didn't come and play for Liverpool for the prestige of playing for Liverpool. Players sort of gravitated towards the capital, for the nightlife, for the money, for what Abramovich could pay them. So bringing in someone like Klopp, and he does the work that he does with the players he does it with, and turning players from good players into great players via a system, because at 25 years old, he's not going to improve them as footballers. He's going to improve what they do on the pitch and when they do it. And that's all about the systems that he uses. So I was delighted, mate. I hoped he would do good things. I prayed he would do good things. I saw that was our last opportunity to really start to play the catch-up that we needed to do. What he's delivered, mate, goes far and beyond any of our expectations. When he said, I will win a title within 4 years, people mistook that for he would win the title, as in the Premier League. In Germany, a title is anything. So he was saying he would win a trophy within 4 years. And he's done that with flying colours, mate. So I was thrilled to bits, mate, and still am. Still can't believe he's our manager.
What is it, Steve, sticking with you, that seems to make Liverpool supporters and Jurgen Klopp just seem to hit it off so well?
Working class. Liverpool is a working class city. Always has been and always will be. Doesn't associate itself with what goes on down south and all of the Tories and all that good stuff. And rightly so. Jurgen Klopp is working class too. Jurgen Klopp's worked hard to get to where he got to. He was thrust into football management without any warning, has taken to it like a duck to water. Liverpool people and Liverpool fans take the time to understand other Liverpool fans and other people from Liverpool. Jurgen Klopp takes the time to understand everybody. So the connection between him and the fans was there the second he walked in the door. They're running down the line and fist pumping and jumping up in the air and celebrating with his staff and his players is absolutely in keeping with what Liverpool as a city is. We celebrate our successes, we are unified, and we come together. And every Saturday at Anfield, 50,000 of them. There's 50,000 Jurgen Klopps in Anfield, then, mate. 50,000 of them. So his fit for the club is amazing, and he's just working class, and that suits us and fits with us down to the T, mate.
Same question to you, Jamie. What is it that makes Liverpool fans and Jurgen Klopp such a match made in heaven?
Steve did a fantastic job of answering that himself. To be honest with you, he's essentially one of us. Yes, he's from Germany, but let's have a look at his ideals. He's got a moral compass. He's a good man. He's from a working class background. He's very humble. One thing that Klopp does or has done is he hasn't just become the manager of Liverpool Football Club. He has fully invested into the city in which he now resides, into the culture of the club, the minds of the people. He's taken that all on board. He wants to be one of us. You know, he wants to feel as we feel. He wants that passion, you know, and he's just an incredible guy. And he is single-handedly responsible for finding that chemistry between the stands and the pitch. Again, we're as one. We work for each other. We go through everything together, the fans and the players. And yeah, we got that man to thank for it. He's an adopted Scouser. I don't know if I have the rights to suggest that, because obviously I'm not a local myself. But being a fan and a supporter all my life, I'm obviously heavily invested in the club. I have an affinity with the city itself. I take on a lot of the customs, the mindsets. So I understand, and it's easy for me to recognize that when an individual is similar, but he's in a position of power where he can put that into place for the benefit of the club and the city. He's just a wonderful man, mate, and he's a Scouser born in Germany.
Just sticking with you, Jamie. If one player could epitomise Jurgen Klopp's tenure at Liverpool so far, what player would that be? Who would you say is Jurgen Klopp's biggest success story as a player?
I think there are a number of candidates to be considered as success stories. I'm gonna say, to epitomise him, I'm gonna go with Jordan Henderson. I think Jordan Henderson carries that passion, that connection with the fans, his desire. Again, very much a working class background, as with many footballers, of course. But he's come from a really tough beginning, certainly in terms of his Liverpool career. His back was against the wall, and there were attempts made to obviously ship him out. But he's made a real connection. He unites the fans. He leads. He's a big character. He's a shouter. He's a voice. But he's a supportive ear. He puts his arms around people when they need it. I think I would go with Hendo, mate. I think that would be a fair shout, certainly on my part, anyway.
Same question to you, Steve. What player would you describe as Jurgen Klopp's biggest success story?
I think if you had 40,000 people on this pod, and the 40,000 people were the ones that go to the game, they'd all tell you the same answer, and it would be Henderson. I watched us win the number 6 with a professional rugby coach who's a very close friend of one of the Liverpool coaching staff. I won't drop names because I'm not in the know, but I had a conversation with him after the game, and he said to me, when Klopp joined Liverpool, he got everybody together at the training ground, including the people who cleaned the place and cooked the food for them, and everybody was introduced to everybody. And Jurgen Klopp made an announcement to everybody that he was going to build an unbreakable family, a family of people that everybody would be equally important, irrespective of their role in the club, and that they would become united as one, and nobody would be able to defeat them. Henderson epitomises that relationship. That picture at the end of when we beat Spurs for number 6, where they're crying in each other's arms before Klopp realises he's got to go and speak to 40 other people on the pitch. That sums up an unbreakable relationship. A good captain is a manager on the pitch, and Jurgen Klopp would trust Jordan Henderson with his life. There's a strong possibility in future years to come that Jordan Henderson is so in line with what Jurgen Klopp's trying to do, form part of a management team, and maybe even one day be a manager, who knows, maybe at Liverpool. But Henderson epitomises everything. As Jamie says, wasn't always great for him. Nearly swapped him for Clint Dempsey. Wow. Could you imagine Clint Dempsey having a relationship he's got with Klopp? Not a chance. As far as that fella goes, who used to be manager down the East Lancs Road, I don't care how funny Jordan Henderson runs from the knees down. He's an absolutely tremendous footballer, mate, and he's our captain. And he epitomises, he is Jurgen Klopp on the pitch. Those two guys have got so much respect for each other. Look, when Henderson won his award and Klopp left him a little voicemail, he was crying in front of grown men. He reduced Jordan Henderson to tears. So that relationship is as special as any relationship Liverpool Football Club's ever known. Those two guys there, Jordan Henderson on the pitch and Klopp off the pitch, are completely aligned, and we owe a massive debt of gratitude to Henderson, because he's really dug in and he is a proper captain. He's very, very conscientious captain, and he's got the utter respect of everybody in the team and everybody in the club. And I think it's fair to say everybody who sat doing this pod tonight has got nothing but respect for Henderson. So that for me is shining light. That's the one. That's the one that's the most successful.
Who would you say has been Jurgen Klopp's best signing?
Best signing? Good question. Well, you have to look at the big names. You have to look at Van Dijk because of what he did and what he brings to the team, the calmness and the assurances. You have to look at Alisson because we've struggled for a good goalkeeper for a number of years. He's not just a good goalkeeper; he's arguably the best goalkeeper on the planet. I think his best signing in terms of what he spent on a player and what he gets out of a player is Andy Robertson, because every week that guy's a 8 out of 10. To have been relegated with Hull, to have been signed for Liverpool, and let's be honest, struggled for 4 months to break into the side, and he's admitted to having doubts as to whether he'd make the breakthrough. To go on and be arguably one of our most consistent players, defensively, of our two fullbacks, he's the stronger of the two defensively, but yet he still chips in with his assists. His energy is infectious, illustrated perfectly by that ridiculous 80-yard run he made, closing down practically every Manchester City player on the pitch. And then the ground rose to their feet to applaud him for it. £8.5 million for a player like that, who in pods to come will be offering him up against the likes of Alan Kennedy as the best left backs Liverpool Football Club's ever had. And don't take that comparison lightly. Alan Kennedy was one hell of a player, but Andy Robertson's Liverpool career is in front of him. We're talking about someone whose career has ended in Alan Kennedy. So Andy Robertson, sky's the limit for that guy. Lovely fella, tremendous worker on the pitch. Would run through walls for Klopp, and we're back to the Klopp factor. But I think for £8.5 million, mate, you could spend £80 million on a left back, and you're not guaranteed that. So I'm gonna put my colours on, my mast firmly on Andy Robbo, mate.
Same question to you, Jamie. Who do you think has been Jurgen Klopp's best signing for Liverpool?
Yeah, that's a ridiculously hard question. He's made a number of good signings. Naturally, you've got your big names, your Alissons and Van Dijks. Van Dijk transformed us as a side. We went from a good side to a fantastic one with that solidity at the back. It's very hard to look past Robertson when you look at quality in relation to cost. At £8.5 million, it's an absolute joke, really, absolute joke. When you look at the quality, it didn't go for him. Not plain sailing early doors. Obviously, he went in and sat down in the office. But this is the difference between winners and those who don't go on to have great successes. He didn't sulk. He knocked on Klopp's door. Again, obviously, a culture has been devised there where, you know what, let's talk. If things aren't good, let's talk. Let's clear the air. Let's see what we can do. So he knocked on the door, didn't throw a tantrum. What have I got to do, Gaffer, to get in this team? What do I need to do? And he was told. He did it. And he's gone on to be arguably the finest left back in the game at this present moment in time. So it's difficult to look past him, really. Again, as I say, in terms of quality versus cost. Wijnaldum was a good signing too. He's popped up with some amazing moments. Now I know he gets some absolute jibes at times with this sideways passing theory, which I do not agree with at all. I think he's been a consistent performer. He's shown versatility. He's operated at centre back. Just a wonderful footballer for me. He's got incredible strength. His ability on the ball is vastly underrated. He can turn on sixpence as well. He does some magical things in very, very tight spaces. Very good footballer. Very good footballer. But yeah, again, you've got your Salahs, you've got Sadio Mane, who you could say was sort of the catalyst of the way, that was almost the marker of how we were going. That was the transition. That was the way we were going to play. Yeah, it's really, really hard. So I'm going to have to side with Steve really and go with Robertson purely based, as I say, at risk of repeating myself, the ability versus cost. So Robertson for me.
Just sticking with you, Jamie. At what point during his Liverpool career did you think this is the man? Things are going to happen here now. Was there a match, a moment? At what point did you realise that Klopp was the man?
Well, his initial press conference. The man's got some serious charisma. It's difficult to listen to that man speak and think, do you know what? I believe him. You know, we must turn from doubters to believers. And his first day, his first couple days, I was left with absolutely no doubts that we were heading in the right direction, and we were likely to head in the right direction quickly. You know when you sort of you go on a flight, and the very well spoken pilot sort of comes over the tunnel and sort of says, I'll get you to your destination safely. You trust him. Your fate is in his hands. He knows what he's doing, and you trust that he's going to deliver on his word. I trusted Klopp would deliver on his word, and I would say from the very first moment he sat down in front of the nation's press and gave it the sort of the normal one and all those bits and bobs. I was convinced, mate. He didn't overplay it. He was clearly confident in his ability. He would never have taken the job, obviously, but he was confident in his ability to deliver. He recognised the talent within the squad, where the squad itself probably wasn't recognising his own talent. He saw that the ceiling could be stretched for those players where they probably felt, and certainly those managers that went before felt they'd already achieved what they could achieve in terms of their ability. But nonsense, no, not for him. He's like, I can really pull some more out of every individual, and he did. And obviously, he's gone on now to build what can only be described as a wonderful side. But yeah, sorry, I got carried away there. Yes, initially, the very first press conference, mate, I think I was very much sold, and I was convinced he was the right man, and we were going to go on and do some wonderful things. And the man has delivered.
Same question to you, Steve. At what point did you realise that Klopp was the man to take us on to bigger and better things?
Well, that one made me all emotional there, Jamie. You've nearly done me there, fella. I think I'll go back to the press conference bit. He draws you in. Jamie's right. I believe him. You believe him. Jamie believes him. And furthermore, it makes us all smile when he speaks. He fills you with happy thoughts and goodness from comments about erotic voices in his earpiece, things like that. That's hilarious. The guy is a very charismatic man. In terms of on the pitch, you couldn't define one game as the sort of watershed. Obviously, there's the well-documented go and celebrate with the fans with the 2-2 draw, when people say, what on earth are you doing that for? He reacts well to bad situations. We got absolutely thumped at Tottenham, and Lovren had an absolute nightmare of a game. I think everybody knows that. the reaction to that, that's probably in a lot of Liverpool's fans the one moment where it went on an upward spiral from that game going forward. But I don't actually think there's any one thing. I think he invests so much self-belief, of his own belief in people. He brings those people up around him. Furthermore, and probably the most crucial thing, and this is why we are what we are, I know Manchester United fans that love Klopp. I've never known Manchester United fans to love any Liverpool manager over the years, any Liverpool player over the years. Klopp has an appeal to as many away fans as he does our own fans. Quite a unique character, the most philosophical of men. He will deal with whatever's put his way. You could pick up 6 injuries tomorrow in training and he'll come out and deliver you the same press conference. And he will fill all those guys that are going to fill in for injuries with self-belief. And I manage people for a living. I want 5% of what Klopp's got in terms of how he gets the best out of people would make me an absolute superstar, and I could choose my job. So in terms of managing people, is there a better manager out there? Anything? Probably not, no. And the thing is, you can only love your dad more than you love Jurgen Klopp, can't you, really? You can only love your dad more than Jurgen Klopp. So, yeah, we're very lucky to have him, and everything he does and everything he says, mate, is he's just an absolute star. He's a proper legend that will be revered till football ends at some point in the future. He will go down in folklore, and rightly so.
Just before we go on, we've had some comments from Twitter, so I'm going to read them too. We'll discuss them. So the first one was from @JoeTGW, and it simply says Shanks 2.0. So Steve, where does Klopp compare, or how does Klopp compare with the legendary Bill Shankly?
Right up there. And the similarities between the two men are frightening. Both are very prophetic in the things that they say. And I did say prophetic. They're both very, very good at predicting what happens in the future. 30 years ago, Shankly said they'll be playing in the European League and they'll have names on their backs. How true is that? Klopp is very like Shankly in the sense that Shankly energized the people around him. Shankly gave us our first sort of era of success, and obviously we passed it on to Bob Paisley, who was the complete opposite of both Shankly and Klopp, in that he was a very unassuming man. Both of those men we speak about, Shankly and Klopp, were larger than life and are larger than life characters, and it takes something like that to pick something up like a football club, like Liverpool Football Club, and go on a stratospheric rise. What they both achieved is absolutely ridiculous in different eras, albeit, which is why I think Klopp's achievements are the greatest in our history, because football's changed so much, and he's up against people that want to play for other clubs for money. When Shankly was the manager towards the end of his reign, people just wanted to play for Liverpool, mate, for the prestige of playing for Liverpool. It wasn't about money. That's why those guys who all played for him, all do after dinner speaking at the moment, all sell their medals on eBay because the finances were not what they were. So they are. So it's not. They're almost. He's almost a reincarnation, if you like, of everything that Shankly is. And I think that is another reason why our fan base and everybody that is in love with Liverpool Football Club has taken Klopp to their hearts, mate. He just is another Bill Shankly. That's a really good tweet, and I agree completely.
Same question to you, Jamie. How does Jurgen Klopp compare to Shankly or any other Liverpool managers past?
Yeah, it's a weird one. I mean, unfortunately, I wasn't born at a time where I could fully appreciate Shankly. I'm operating primarily on my investment in the club and its history and all that jazz. It's yeah, but he does give the impression he's a Shankly reincarnate. He's incredibly unique, yet very similar in a lot of ways. He's developed and got an affinity with a club beyond being a manager. He's connected to the city. He is one of us. Yeah, there are a lot of similarities from what I can gather. Obviously, being a Liverpool supporter, you're privy to plenty of Shankly footage and what have you. So yeah, there are a lot of similarities. What I don't like to do, and I've touched on this even in terms of players as well, is run too many comparables in terms of individuals. I like to gauge people on their own merits, and I feel it's always unfair to sort of measure up what people have achieved against each other and all those bits and bobs. What Shankly achieved in the time that he achieved was nothing short of phenomenal. What Klopp has gone on to achieve with what he had to work with initially, let's say, with this football club, again, is nothing short of phenomenal. He's kind of cleaned up sort of domestically, really, in terms of the league. What should I say, in clubs? Obviously, we've still got the cup competitions that we don't tend to bother all too much with, but we've got the league. We've won Europe. We've been to another European Cup final. We were at a UEFA Cup final. Those two lost finals were very much in transition at the time. We're very much an established outfit. And he's done that with a mishmash. Yes, we paid big for a centre back. We paid big for a goalkeeper. In relative terms, Sadio Mane and Mohamed Salah, they weren't big money. That you're talking money like that now. You're buying a sort of kind of average player, really. You know. So he's done remarkable things. But yeah, he does bear similarities, of course, to Shanks. So yeah, it's a great observation. It's a great tweet. But yeah, as I say, I would always go with Klopp on his own merits, and he's building his own legend, mate. And I think we should allow Shanks to keep his.
Rob LFC at Humph 1986, the second coming of Christ, but better. Instead of turning water into wine, he makes players into superstars. How do you follow that, Steve?
Wow, praise indeed. Praise from the highest echelons, that is, mate. Fancy likening him to God, eh? That's amazing. Yeah, well, he does make average footballers into superstars, and I think that's an important part of that tweet to sort of focus on. I said before, and I've said this many times in conversations, when you get footballers at your club who are 23, 24, 25 years old, you can't develop them as players. They are what they are. What you can do, and what Liverpool do so well, is create an environment and a system that supports their strengths. Wijnaldum, for me, is the perfect system player. Jamie's alluded to it earlier on in the tweet, in the pod, and he's exactly right. So what he's doing is he's putting round pegs in round holes. And over the years, we've seen many square pegs in round holes. And the unfortunate thing is, right in the middle of a game, when you don't expect them to, they pop out. But they don't. He gives players self-belief. I touched on that already. The confidence that he instills in everybody around him. He kind of radiates that confidence. Yeah, you can't place too much importance on just how well he develops players in terms of their mentality and their psychology, and gives them a role that fits in and around their strengths. He doesn't ask people to do things they can't do. Hence, he's not turned Trent Alexander into the best defensive right back in the world. He's turned him into a number 10 playing in a number 2 shirt, which is absolutely ridiculous, the quality the guy's got. And equally on the other side, Robbo's doing his own little bit. So it's unique, mate. And it didn't start at Liverpool. Like Jamie says, he was doing it at Dortmund.
Same question to you, Jamie. Well, same tweet to you. How do you follow that up? Better than the second coming of Christ?
I don't really know. I don't think you can you? It's fair enough. Fair enough. It feels like that sometimes. It feels like we've been touched by the hand of God in terms of Klopp being the gift. Yeah, he is turning water into wine and all that. I'm not a biblical guy, so I can't run with too many sort of Bible references. But how can I argue, mate? How can I argue?
And our last tweet that we got was from Ali, hashtag YNWA at RKO for all. And it simply just says, boss.
That does it, mate. I'll go with that one.
So, my final question for the both of you. What is your favourite Klopp match? And I'll go to you first, Jamie, as I see you grimacing.
Yeah. Loads of them. There are loads of them. And all for different reasons. He's too many. I'm going to go for one purely on reward for him. I think it feels all too easy to go to a Champions League win, but I'm going to go with that purely on the basis that he had been to so many finals and he was being like everybody's favorite runner-up. You know, he was a failure in finals, and that moment was massive. It was massive. You could see it on his face the moment that final whistle went, and we got to see the Bobby Firmino roly-poly, and he was immensely proud. He was immensely proud of what he'd achieved. He was immensely proud of what his family on that pitch had achieved. It was a moment where all that hard work and all that love within the unit paid off, and it was the moment I think he deserved for a long time, and I'm just delighted he got to experience that as a Liverpool manager, because we all got to share that with him, and it's something that will never be forgotten by either him or the supporters or of course I'll try again, or of course the players. It was a magical moment, and he's written himself into the scriptures of this club, and he's a name that's going to forever be chanted on the terraces at Anfield.
Same question to you, Steve. What's your favourite Klopp match?
I'm going to cheat a bit here. So you get to the end of the season, you get 97 points, and you don't win the league. You can do two things. You can go away and lick your wounds and wallow in self-pity and turn into Pochettino, and then come out the next season and cry and eventually lose your job. Or you can sit down with the players and you can say, what we will do is we will use the adversity of not winning the league to grow, to be stronger, to be better, to find another 10%. So I'm going to nominate, the second the season finished, Manchester City won the league with 98 points. The next 38 league games that Liverpool played, I'm going to nominate each and every single one of them, because that is a testament to the endeavour and how much he buys into his team. He got an extra percentage out of them when it didn't seem possible. Not the cavalier football that we played in that year, but very clever football. And we are still dominating teams, even though up until last night we haven't started the season particularly well. So the 38 games that brought us a league title after 30 years of waiting were a testament to how you turn adversity to make it your advantage, and to instill in the players that, okay, we didn't win, but next year we go again, we try harder, we put another 10% on it. You can do it, and you will do it, and they bloody well did do it.
Perfect answer. And I think that's the perfect answer to finish with. Thanks for joining us. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please pop over to Apple Podcast, drop us a 5-star rating, and leave us a little review, because it really helps us. And we'll see you next time.
See you guys. See you. Take care.